guys, it's Zologe here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Yosenju, the stun deck that was just released into the Secret Forces. I really haven't had much experience with this deck, but here's a build that I think works a little bit. The deck is basically a lot of stun. You want to get this card as early as possible, so you use things like Tenki to search out your Kamatachi, which then searches out rest of your cards. So you can then get to the Yokai Shrine of Trials, and then start recycling the secret move, I guess, which is basically a barrier for the deck. And you just keep controlling your opponent's movements, and you start poking your opponent in the face with Kamatachi, and things like that. So the deck is actually fairly good, because, you know, you get a lot of normal summons and stuff, meaning that you're not hindered by things like Vanity's Emptiness or anything like that. To get multiple monsters on board, and the deck actually functions very well. You also, since all of the level 4 ones are wind, well, everything in the deck is wind basically, aside from Swift Scarecrow, you have access to friggin' Lightning Chidori, which is awesome. The card is, like, seriously one of the best Xyz monsters in the entire game, just because of its two effects. When it's Xyz summoned, you can target one set card in the field, your opponent controls and return to the bottom of the deck, and then you can also target one face-up monster, face-up card your opponent controls and return to the top. So that is really awesome. Sadly, it only sits on 1900 attack, but its effects are so good, it's worth it. But yes, let's go into the deck profile and explain my choices as we go along. So first we go for double Dieback. Dieback is actually a really interesting card, just because of when it's on board. Well, when it gets Pendulum Summoned, you get this crazy effect that you can target up to 2 cards in the field and return them to the hand. And your opponent cannot negate the summon of this card, so the effect is gonna go off unless they have something like Effect Veiler to stop its effect. But it's a really good card. Just bouncing back 2 cards on the field, and it sits on a hefty 3000 body too, so that's pretty awesome. Not to mention that he can be used as a pendulum card himself, so yeah, that's a thing you can do. Not necessarily that you're going to be doing that too much though, but it's a thing you can do. When it's a pendulum card, you basically give your Yosenju an extra 300 attack when they're attacking another monster. Well, actually, when they're attacking, period, they gain 300 attack, which is pretty interesting. Next we go for the double, well, actually 2 level 6s here, the the Misak and the Magat. They're basically used for a rank 6 play. If you have any of your Yosenjus available, you can just go for the Magat, which then special summons out your Misak, and then you can go for a rank 6 play. So that's basically why they're there. They're not going to be like your main thing. It's just a thing you can do, and some of the some of the rank 6s are really good, like Photon Strike Bouncer and M7. Those will be like really good to have in many matchups, and of course Gauntlet Launcher is really good in the rogue matchups. So yeah, that's a thing. Next, of course, you go for the triple Kamatachi. He's basically one of your gateways into your XYZs, as well as your many normal summons with this deck. And he can also poke your opponent in the face directly, which is really good. However, your opponent takes half damage from it. But if you have something like Kamatachi, it's worth it, because you get to search, which is really good. Next, we have the triple Kama 1. Which is basically I guess, another normal summon, as well as you can bounce back 1 card, one face-up card in the field. Well, yeah, one face-up card your opponent controls, you can bounce back with this, which is where most of your control is going to be coming from, stunning out your opponent's cards and whatnot, which means that this deck does not have any weakness towards Vanity's Emptiness whatsoever, because you can just bounce that shit back, and then go for your play, which is really strong. And Mistake, you don't need to worry about that either. So this all Floodgate cards except for Skill Drain are completely worthless against this deck, because you just bounce them back with the Kamatachi. Kama 1 rather. And then we have Kama 3, which when a Yosenju monster you control inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add 1 Yosenju card from your deck to your hand, which means you can add the Shrine of Trials as well as the secret move, which is really good. And yeah, it's just a fantastic card, because it allows you to get pluses and searches with this thing, and cycling these once you get this up and running. And it's just a really nice thing. Next, of course, we go for the triple Sujik. Sujik is basically a way for you to deal more damage with Kamantachi, nothing too fancy there. Also allows you, also it can act as a hand trap should your opponent, should you have something like Pendulum summoned that your opponent would like to run over, you can just drop this and they'll take damage, because it gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn, which is really good. Next we have the triple red face and triple blue face. That's what I'm going to call them because their names are really weird. But they're basically your pendulums. You want to get at least one of these out because they will ensure that your secret move will always be active no matter what, which is really nice. And things in general are pretty nice with these. You can also use them to summon die back, which is pretty interesting. And finally, we run triple Swift Scarecrow. The reason for this is that all of the Yosenjus basically behave like spirit monsters in the sense that they return to the hand during the end phase. So you're going to leaving yourself with a blank board most of the time. So having things like Swift Scarecrow really helps out, preventing you from getting OTK'd and stuff like that in a metagame like this. As for spells, we run triple Mystical Space Typhoon for generic background removal. We run triple Shrine of Trials to start cycling things like Secret Move, as well as getting other Yosenjus to our hand. And finally, we run the triple Tanky to round up our spell, spell roster, I guess, because we really need to get the Kamatachi, well, Kama 3 rather, as early as freaking possible. Damn, the names are weird. And as for traps, we run double Mirror Force, same reason as we run Swift Scarecrow, it stops battle phases on its own. And then we run triple secret moves and one solemn warning, and that runs up the main deck. As for the extra deck, we run a lot of rank 4s as well as some rank 6s and 2 Gaia Dragons. It's basically just so we can get extra piercing damage on board, and should any of our rank 6s effects get negated or anything like that, you can just go straight into this thing. To have still something on there. Next, to go for one Utopia Beyond for rogue matchups. When you go for this thing, normally everything your opponent controls in terms of attack will become 0, which is actually really, really nice. And it's a 3000 body too, so it's pretty strong. Then we run one M7, basically recycling, as well as bouncing back cards our opponent controls. It's not super duper fantastic, but it's still a card to have, and it's still a pretty useful card in this deck. Then finally, we run one Photon Strike Bouncer for effect negation and one Gauntlet Launcher for monster removal. As for rank 4s, we run one Dark Rebellion, one Ragna Zero, one Tiger King, triple Lightning Chidori, double Evil Storm Excision Knight, and finally one Gagaga Cowboy. And that runs up next to it, guys. I don't really think, and I'm out.